What's going on, guys? It's your boy Sonic back at it again with another video, and today I have a tier list for you. I wanted to take some time to go through and rank every single canon Sonic form. That doesn't mean just super forms, it means all forms in general. Now, I know there's not that many, so I'm going to be a lot stricter with this tier list, so not every form is able to attain an A or an S rank right off the bat. You see, in my usual tier list, I normally go off based on the design, but when it comes to this tier list in particular, I'm going to be basing it off of a couple of things. Firstly, how often is the form used? Now you see, this can either hurt or help its case. If the form is overused, then it's not as special, but if it's properly used, it can certainly help. The second thing is how powerful is the form. Since the main Sonic canon is not overly hard to power scale, I will be going into the main capabilities of each form, going into their greatest feats, and using that to tackle other unlocked potential they may have. And the last category is how cool is the design. Now this one is purely subjective and can be ranked wherever you personally like, and to be completely honest, to me, I think in terms of the designs, all of these forms deserve to be an S rank when compared to the entire series designs. I would even argue that they would get an S rank in every single category of this video. But to make it more difficult, I'm going to compare each and every single form to one another, which one has the best design in comparison to which one is the worst design. Basically meaning only one of these forms can be the best, and only one can be the worst. No matter where you are ranked on each individual tier list, you will be allotted at least 1 point, capable of earning up to 5 points in one tier list. In the event of a tie, the winner will be decided based on popularity, or some other way I think of while I'm making the video. Sorry, I don't make the rules. Oh wait, yes I do. Anyways, as always, everything I say in this video is regarded as fact, so if you disagree, you are wrong. I'm kidding, of course, but as always, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for more Sonic the Hedgehog videos and content. Let's just get right into it. First and foremost, the one thing I want to talk about first is how often is the form used, and we're going to start with Supersonic. Now, allow me to mention that I do indeed love Supersonic. This is Sonic's most iconic form, and it feels as if the series will never let us forget it. It seems to be that whenever Sonic uses this form, it always comes at a pretty climactic time. In a way, this kind of signifies just how powerful and important this form is, not just to Sonic, but the entirety of the series. But enough with the details, let's get down to ranking this form based on the previously set parameters. Well, the Super Form is one that initially began as a form only unlocked when the game story allowed it. Whenever you were playing a Sonic game and you were at some sort of final boss battle, the form was integrated in such a way that made it mandatory. However, recently this form is now used in more ways than just one. Over time since its first appearance in the game Sonic 2, we've seen this form used pretty much whenever the player feels like it. In games like Sonic Colors, Sonic Lost World, Sonic Forces, Sonic can and will use this form completely out of context, despite the fact that this form and the Chaos Emeralds have little to no relevance to the main story. This form can also be accessed if the player collects enough red rings or just downloads it from an e-store. As far as the frequency of appearing in the series, I'd say that Sonic's super ability used to be a bone chiller, goosebumps kind of form, but over time I hate to say, but it's kind of lost its appeal. It seems like a lot of Sonic games now include this awesome ability, and because of that, it almost seems to have lost its dramatic effect. Don't get me wrong, I still love this form, but as far as I'm concerned, this is the most used Sonic form, and that wouldn't be so bad if it was used a bit more sparsely. And even if you were to disagree with my thoughts regarding the Super Form, you have to admit that it's used much more than every other canon Sonic form. Now let's talk about Hypersonic, which really isn't much of a long conversation. Unlike its inferior counterpart, Supersonic, this form hardly ever gets used, as it's only made an appearance in the game Sonic the Hedgehog 3. However, unlike the other forms I mentioned later, this form is much easier to bring into the main story. Fortunately, this form doesn't have the difficulty of being used in a storybook game or locked behind forced activation. Hypersonic is an obtainable form for Sonic. This form came to be after the Chaos Emeralds were transformed into the Super Emeralds by the power of the Master Emerald. Unless I'm missing something, I don't see why this cannot happen again, especially since we know that Sonic has access to both the Chaos and Master Emeralds. To say the least, this is a form that does not show up enough in the series, especially when it's not that hard to implement in the first place. Moving on, let's talk a bit about the Werehog, which quite honestly has the best usage out of all the canon forms. Making an appearance in one major Sonic game, we still see it appear very subtly in artwork, and as a costume in spin-off games like Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games, and in Sonic vs. Speed Battle. Sega has likely seen the desire that many fans have for Sonic Unleashed Remaster or a port of some kind, and even now they are taking slow and steady steps with giving us a little Unleashed or Werehog appreciation post. Not to mention, the Werehog had its own animation short by Marza's staff. This is literally a 10-minute short that I would say is the same quality as the Sonic Unleashed opening. This is simply why this has the best use. It shows up in subtle ways, and if you pay attention, you can definitely catch it. To the untrained eye, it would be super easy to miss, and when you look at all the appearances, you might even assume it's a lot, but in all seriousness, it really isn't all that noticeable. This is the definitive Sonic form when it comes to the appearances. When it comes to Excalibur Sonic, however, I believe he's actually one step below the Werehog. You see, the reason being is for the sheer fact that this form is an appreciated one. From time to time, you may see it referenced or make a cameo in one game, or maybe even a piece of artwork or in a comic. Most recently, it showed up in Sonic Force's Speed Battle. All of these are great things, and highlight just how much this form is in fact appreciated. So, it isn't bad. Actually, I would argue it's quite fantastic. The only thing stopping me from breaking my rule and moving it up a tier is for the sheer fact that it doesn't get nearly the same appreciation that the Werehog does, despite how cool it is. Lastly, there is Darkspine Sonic, who actually really makes me break my own rules. I have to put this on the same tier as Hypersonic. I know that I said that Hypersonic is not trapped in a storybook game and actually has a legitimate reason for being used, but even though Darkspine is only limited to storybook access only, I don't think this should stop him from making an appearance in a game like Sonic Force's Speed Battle and Sonic Dash, or even referenced in spin-offs and such. Seeing as though it only made a cameo in Sonic and the Black Knight, and was very briefly referenced in the Mario and Sonic game, I just don't think it was given the same treatment as Excalibur Sonic. Don't get me wrong, I'm totally against shoehorning stuff in, especially when it doesn't make sense, but I wouldn't be opposed to seeing this form racing in Sonic Force's Speed Battle. Anyway, let's move on to the wrap-up of the first round. Alright, so the results of that round have Werehog in first with 5 points, Excalibur in second with 4, Hyper and Darkspine tied with 3, and Supersonic in last with 1. Again, I really couldn't put Hyper over Darkspine in terms of usage, because neither really ever get any attention at all. Moving on, however, let's talk about the second parameter, that being, how powerful is the aforementioned form? And we're going to be talking about Supersonic again in this case. Well, the capabilities of Supersonic are in essence just Sonic's regular abilities, but amplified. Oh, and also he can fly. So pretty much, this form is faster, stronger, can jump higher, quicker reflexes, and is completely invincible. The only requirement for this form is that Sonic must have 50 or more rings and the 7 Chaos Emeralds. The super form is a power that also can be willingly transferred over to others. This happened both the games Sonic Heroes and Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. Outside of that though, the super form is really just enhanced abilities of an already super strong character. I mean, in this form alone, he's taken the likes of Perfect Chaos, with the help of Super Shadow he beat Final Hazard, and with Light Gaia he beat Dark Gaia. Not to mention, he blew up an entire Eggman spaceship in a matter of mere seconds. I also want to highlight again that he beat Perfect Chaos while he was Supersonic, but he also beat him again when he was just base form. So just imagine how much more powerful that super form really is. Now the deal with Hypersonic is the mere fact that in every single way possible, it is supposed to be better than Supersonic. So no matter how you spin it, it was going to lose this round. Sorry Supersonic fans, I love this form too, but it was supposed to be the most basic out of every single one of them. Moving on however, let's talk about a couple things about Hypersonic that separate him from his super counterpart. First is that with the exception of bosses, he can cause a large flash on the screen and instantly one-shot all enemies in the vicinity. He doesn't even need to touch an enemy in order to beat them, and that's pretty crazy in itself. This hyper form is insusceptible to all hurt, harm, and danger, and that includes water. Yes, you heard me correctly, the drowning noise exists no more. With this form, Sonic can breathe underwater, although he still cannot swim. That said though, he still can die if he falls into pits, the usual Sonic drawback. But that's the basic gist of everything you really need to know about Hypersonic, and his strength. Then there is the Werehog, who as much as I hate to say it, is the weakest of all the forms. I mean in all honesty, it really isn't even a contest. All of these forms are like final transformations for Sonic, and can pretty much one-shot small-scale enemies. It's not until very late in the game in Sonic Unleashed that you get close to this scale. I mean, this is a form that you as the player actually have to go out of your way to upgrade. I love this form because I am actually a fan of the Unleashed Werehog gameplay, as it's actually just hacking and slashing through everything in your path and stringing up super cool combos, but in all honesty, This form isn't fast, as Sonic actually has to run on all fours in order to obtain even a little speed. The form itself is semi-comparable to Sonic's base form, except instead of speed, it prioritizes strength. Also, it would be rather remiss of me if I did not mention what makes the Werehog so special, and that's not only that he's super hairy with a deep voice, but he also ate the Gum Gum fruit, so he can stretch his arms out really far. This gives Sonic a bit of a special advantage over enemies, as he can treat them like ragdolls by picking them up and throwing them, or slamming them very aggressively into the ground. The Werehog is strong, but like everything else on this list, it's being compared to all the other forms, not the entire series. Anyway, let's get to talking about Excalibur Sonic, who I would actually put above Super Sonic. This form operates in a very similar fashion, however, instead of being unlocked with the power of the Chaos Emeralds, this form needs the 4 Sacred Swords. You only get these from beating the Knights of the Round Table, but also when you gain their assistance in battle. That aside though, this form has increased Sonic's speed and strength and given him new abilities like an energy projection, and of course my personal favorite, and the reason I gave him the edge, swordsmanship.
Pun entirely intended.
Not to mention with Caliburn, Sonic was already a skilled swordsman, and as the game progressed, he just kept getting better. We know this to be true because as the game goes on, Caliburn begins to change his attitude towards Sonic, believing more and more that Sonic is indeed worthy of wielding him. To add to that, Caliburn increases his strength when he and Sonic transform, making him become Excalibur. Sonic's personal physical strength has increased as well as the power of his sword, which we know was already capable of taking down all the Knights of the Round Table and the illusion of King Arthur. To me, this form is just Super Sonic with a sword, so I had no choice but to put it above Super Sonic. And this form has a cape. How could I not?
And it's a no on the cape.
I think it's cool.
Take that off, it's disrespectful.
And finally, the last form for this category is Dark Spine Sonic. Now what makes this form unique is that unlike most of the other forms aside from the Werehog, this form is shrouded in darkness. In this form, Sonic is being guided by the emotions of hatred, rage, and sadness. Pretty much if you like Dark Sonic from Sonic X, this form will be your cup of tea. This operates a bit like Super Sonic as well, meaning he can fly, but I wouldn't say he's impervious to all damage. Given this form can only be used in the final boss fight, one could assume it can take damage from anything, but one could also assume that he can only take damage if it's a being powerful enough to actually damage him, like Alf Leia Walea or a Razor Jin super form, whichever name you prefer. So since it's a bit of a gray area, it's probably best to assume that he is actually susceptible to damage. That said though, unlike the other super forms, there is no ring requirement. 50 rings are not necessary in order to activate this form, and you can hit the 0 ring mark and still manage to make out just fine. As far as the individual power of Dark Spine goes, we know that during this boss fight, Sonic did not have access to Char's ring, but he still was able to perform moves like Time Break and Speed Break, not to mention all of the soul energy required for these attacks he is capable of gaining himself. In this form, Sonic has increased physical strength, speed, flight, and he can use fire abilities as well as wind and darkness. Sonic can also use massive explosions by creating fire and causing it to happen. Also, out of all the forms, I would say this one is the best at hand-to-hand combat. While this should be an area that Werehog excels at, Darkspine can do it much faster and stronger. We see this demonstrated when he sends Alf Leia Walea's most powerful attack right back at him. The penultimate thing I want to add here is that this form was able to mend reality back to normal just by Sonic clenching his fist. Oh, and also he turned himself and a Razor Jin back to normal as well. I think it's really important to note that not only was Sonic able to turn himself back to normal at will, but also his opponent. This is something that none other super form has done before. And finally, the last thing I want to mention is that this form only uses 3 of the 7 world rings, meaning that this form hasn't even hit its peak yet. If it wasn't obvious enough already, this form takes the cake for me in terms of strength. Hypersonic for sure was a close second, but due to the fact that all Darkspine would have to do to beat him is outlast him. I give this form the benefit of the doubt, but after Hyper I believe Excalibur, then Super, and lastly Werehog for I think pretty obvious reasons. Now let's move on to the final category and get to our ultimate tally. Firstly, let's look at Supersonic, who again, I think is the most basic of all the forms. I mean, we see a lot of characters coin the whole gold super form thing, and even if Sonic has done it before a lot of others, it still wasn't new to begin with. Like, we see characters like Goku, Naruto, Mario, and so many others have some sort of super strong form with gold hair sticking upwards, or something like that. It's cool, don't get me wrong, but when compared to the others, it's just kind of basic. Outside of that, there isn't anything major to write home about either. It's literally just a gold hair-raised Sonic. Unfortunately, Hyper isn't much different, though I do believe it's a little cooler because of the whole change in colors thing, but even still, it's only a step above the basic Supersonic form. Now, I personally think that the Werehog is probably the coolest form. It's such a grisly look for this character, and I think for that reason alone, it's pretty cool. Like, if you think about it, all the other super forms, which are still very cool, have very basic modifications, not giving them a ton of room to be different. The Werehog, on the other hand, is super hairy, with cleats and fangs that hang out its mouth. It almost makes you do a double take and question if this is really Sonic. This one for sure takes the cake. I have Excalibur Sonic, on the other hand, ranked one lower than the Werehog due to the fact that, as I said earlier, I like capes and swords, and again, this is yet another crazy look for Sonic. You aren't going to find many games where Sonic needs to be wearing a Golden Knight armor suit. I know it's taking a lot of inspiration from the OG super form, but I feel like this one has a bit more going for it. And again, the cape. And lastly, when it comes to Darkspine, I have it ranked in the middle. In all honesty, this design is sick, but it also looks like an early 2000s Sonic OC fan art, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, I think that might be the reason why I like it so much. That said though, I really just like the Werehog and Excalibur better. There really is no other reason than that. Okay, so now on to the final results, which actually resulted in a three-way tie between Werehog, Darkspine, and Excalibur, all with 11 points. Hyper had 9, Super had 4, so I guess we had to do some kind of tiebreaker. So I thought the best way of doing this was actually to have you guys pick the winner. In the comment section down below, I will have you guys choose between the Werehog, Excalibur, and Darkspine, and you guys will decide which of these forms is truly the winner. Like I said earlier, originally I was going to do it based on popularity, but that really wouldn't be that fair since it would easily go to the Werehog since it appeared more than both of these two other forms. So again, I would really appreciate it if you guys chose in the comment section down below. I don't really know what I would do with the results or if there's anything I would do at all, but I would love to check out your responses. And if you have any ideas of what I should do, again, let me know down below. What's going on, guys? Thank you all so much for sticking around to the end of the video. Now I want to hear from you. What is the best canon Sonic form? Is it one of the three that tied, or is it Hyper or Super? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Personally, I would go either Werehog or Darkspine, just because I love the Werehog as a whole, and Darkspine is unbelievably powerful. Anyway, now I want to dish out a shout out to my amazing channel members. Thank you all so much for supporting me and my content. You guys are truly the best motivators. I know I say this a lot, but these videos really would not be possible without you. Every day I wake up praising the Lord for amazing people like y'all. I feel so blessed to have you guys. It's unbelievable. If you're interested in becoming a member of my channel, there's a link in the description down below. But if you want to support me through other means, leaving a like, comment, and subscribing would go a super long way. Anyway, with all that said and done, don't forget to vote for the best form. This is Sonic signing out. Have a super blessed day, y'all.
Why are you playing that trash?